there. So I'm going to go ahead and start another project. I have a couple of projects that I've already finished or I'm almost finished with. And I've done the videos for them, but I haven't finished editing them together, so I'll get those put together eventually and posted. So anyway, I got this idea from a video on YouTube. I think I've talked about her before. It's a channel called Whitney Sews. You can look it up just by searching for A Glance at My World. It's all one word. And she does really cool sewing videos and stuff like that. So anyway, I can't remember which video it was of hers that she did, that she showed this on. But it was a monogram initial letter done in buttons, and I thought it was really cute. So I decided I wanted to do it. So anyway, I'm going to show you what all you're going to need, and we'll get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to need is an outline of a letter that you like. And I'm going to do one for me and one for my parents. So I just went and printed off a letter that I liked the font of, and I made it as big as I could to fit my picture frame that I had bought. And I just went and changed the settings so that it was an outline. You don't really have to do that if you don't want to. But so you'll need that, a piece of tissue paper, and I'm just going to repurpose this from some presents, because what we're going to do is copy this onto the tissue paper with a Sharpie marker, and this is what we'll attach to our fabric to sew down the buttons so that we'll know we're following the right outline. So tissue paper, Sharpie, a pair of fabric scissors, a pair of paper scissors, some thread that matches your buttons, and I'm using some vintage white and clear type buttons, so I'm going to use like an ecru color. Thread scissors. I'm using a seam ripper because some of the buttons that I bought have the fabric from the original uses still on them, so I found this was really easy to use to get the needle or the thread and stuff off. And then a boatload of buttons. So I ordered these from Etsy, ETSY, and it's just a vintage, handmade, kind of like eBay but more awesome. So I like the look of the vintage white buttons, so I found some from a couple of sellers and ordered them, and they came in pretty quick, and they're really awesome. I really like the patina on them because they're kind of yellowing, and it's just really cool looking. So what I did was I went ahead and took out all of the buttons that had shanks on them, like these are shank buttons, because I wanted the flat buttons that'll lay down on there. You can use any color buttons that you want, obviously, and some fabric. So I really like this blue damask fabric with the designs on it, so I'm going to sew buttons onto this one. And you'll also need a picture frame big enough to fit your monogram. So this is an 11 by 14 inch frame, and it's got a mat in it, and I was going to use it at first, but I don't think I will now because the button monogram will be bigger than the matted area. So I'm just going to get rid of the mat. I'll use it for something else, I'm sure. And then you're going to need some cardboard. So this is the cardboard that the picture frame was sold in, so I'm just going to reuse this cardboard. You'll also need a straight edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this down to size, and this is what we're going to lay our fabric against in order to put this into the photo frame. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so all we need to do is just lay down our tissue paper and smooth it out, and then we're going to trace our letter onto this. Okay, so I have smoothed down my paper and then just put a little tape down to keep it from moving around so much when I trace my letter. Obviously it doesn't have to be perfect because the lines are straight and the buttons are round, so it's not going to be exactly on your lines. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and trace this out onto the tissue paper. Okay, so that will get pinned down to the fabric, so you'll need some straight pins as well. I forgot to say that. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up and get my fabric ready, and I'll be right back. Right, so I've got my cardboard here, and there was some hardware on there from where it was hung on the on the shelf. So I just used some wire cutters to remove the I guess they were rivets. So I'm going to, and this is the sale paper that was inside of the frame, so that's how big I'm going to cut my cardboard. So I've got a straight edge and an X-Acto knife, and so what I'm going to do is just line my paper up with the edge of my cardboard here so that I get as little of that in there as possible. I don't want that sitting in the middle of my frame. I don't know if it would make any difference. Probably not. So just lay the paper down, line up your ruler, and carefully cut the cardboard down to the right size, and also again use your cutting mat. Okay, so I got my cardboard cut out, and I'm going to use this to determine the size of my fabric. And so this is the right side. It's the side that's the background is shiny, and in most fabrics the right side is folded to the inside. So I'm just going to lay this down and put my cardboard over top of it. Okay, and I'm going to trim the fabric maybe a couple inches bigger all the way around so that I'll have enough to fold to the back and tape down. So that it won't shift when I go to put it in the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get to the next step. Alright, so I've got my fabric cut out, and I ironed it from the wrong side so that it didn't, the heat didn't melt anything here and mess up the patina of the fabric. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to center my letter on the fabric as best I can. You can make minor adjustments to centering when you lay it on the cardboard to put into the frame, but I want to try to get it as in the center as possible from the edges of the letters here, so, or the edges of the letter. Okay. Grab a bunch of pins. And alright, so now what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and thread up our needle and start putting buttons down, and we'll just sew directly onto here. And so once we get done, then we can tear this away and use tweezers for any of the pieces of tissue paper that might get stuck underneath the buttons. So I'm going to take you over here. Okay, so over here what I've done is, this is the letter or the K that I picked out that I like the font of, and I've gone ahead and laid down the buttons in the configuration that I like. And then after I did that, I took a couple of pictures of it so that I can kind of get these buttons back in the same place, and I will just sew these down to my K. And I'll do the same thing for the M. I'll pick out buttons that I like the way they look on the M and then I'll sew those down. Alright, so I'm ready to get started sewing. I have threaded my needle with my matching thread, and I've gone through basically 4 layers. So like long piece of string, fold it in half, and then feed it through that way. So you've got 2 pieces going through, and when you fold it in half, now you've got 4 pieces. So go ahead and run your needle up through a button here, and back down through it. Okay. Get caught on everything here. Alright, so now just to lock that in place, I'm going to run the needle back through the original piece of thread on the back. Alright, so first button is on, and if you want to go back through this a couple more, 1 or 2 more times, you don't have to tie knots on each one of these, just continue to the next button, and I'm going to go ahead and do a few more, and then we'll cut to the end. Alright, and that's essentially what you just keep doing. Just keep placing the buttons either from your picture, or just you can go random, however you want to do it. You don't pull the string too tight, otherwise it'll pucker up the fabric in the back. But just continue in this way until you've filled in your whole letter. So I'll see you when we get to the end. Alright, so I've just finished sewing on all of the buttons. So now you can start tearing away the tissue paper. And for any little pieces that get caught in the buttons, just use some tweezers to pull it out. And then when you get done with that, we'll get on to the next step. Alright, so I have removed all of the tissue paper from all around it and flipped up the buttons so that I could see if there was any hidden underneath there. And I've put my piece of cardboard underneath it, and you can see there's the edges of my cardboard, so I just kind of eyeballed it until it looked even and nicely centered. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little section here, fold it back, and put some double-sided sticky tape, permanent, on there. And hold this in place while I tuck it under, and being careful not to bend my cardboard. And then do the same on the other side. Alright, now turn the cardboard over, and we're just going to carefully peel it back and just pull it a little bit tighter. turn it back over, make sure it's still centered nicely. Alright. And then we're just going to continue taping down these edges. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've finished the other three sides, and what I've done to make the fabric lay a little bit flatter was I just folded it up to a point here, like that, and then about a ½ inch up from the corner. So here's the corner of the cardboard. So right about here, I'm going to start cutting at an angle so that I'm basically taking out a semi kind of square shape. That's just to get rid of some of the bulk in the corners. Okay, and then tuck it down into the corner. Okay, and then tape it down and you are done. Alright, so I've taken my frame apart and pulled the glass out to clean it. And so a little tip is clean the side that's going to be facing out first, because when you're working with it you can touch that side, and if you get fingerprints on it you can just clean that. So I've got just some plain Windex and a cloth from an old t-shirt so it doesn't leave lint. And clean the front side, and then take a couple of pieces of scrap or the towel that you're cleaning with and use that to hold to flip the frame or the glass over to clean the other side. And then I'm going to use another piece of fabric to hold the glass down. Okay, and then just hold up your glass and look to see if you see any smudges, and then clean those, and then put it back into your frame with the side that you're cleaning really well to be the inside of the glass facing the inside of the frame. So I want this side facing up right now to be the inside of my frame, so I would just put it in like that. So I'm going to check my glass against some light and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I have my glass in the frame and I think I've got it pretty dust free. Alright, so now take your letter and flip it over and set it down inside of there. Okay. And there's, in this particular frame, there's just a little lip right in there that the back slides down into. And then it sits in the whole frame. Like that. And I'm just going to turn these little locks into place. And I'll be right back as soon as I get this on there. So since the buttons stick up a little bit higher than just obviously a flat piece of paper would, it's going to be a tight fit. So I'm going to work on this and I'll be right back. Alright, so I had to use my back of my tweezers to help push the little tabs into place, but got it finished, and that is the final product. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.